Expedição ao Rio Cartagena.
Okay, you're an anthropologist.
No, I'm an anti-archaeologist.
Anti-archaeologist.
Yes.
So you were saying that you came from? What's your name?
My name's David.
David, full name?
My last name is a name that many Dutch people many German people would recognize. If they were from Bern in Switzerland, they would recognize my name, Dellenback. Dallenback.
David Dallenback.
Yes.
So you was telling me you came here?
I came here long ago when I was a young man because I'm from a little town and I wanted to see a bigger world than my little town. My little town is just a pathetic little town in Oregon.
In Oregon?
Yes. And I had hopes of being able to believe that the world is actually large and big and wonderful and marvelous. And the only way to do that is to hit the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what do you find out?
For some reason, after traveling for a long time, I came to this town here. And this town here hooked me. And then I've lived the rest of my life here in this town.
How long are you here?
Next year it will be 52 years.
52 years?
Yeah.
Nice.
So my life is as a member of the community of this town.
So you, as an anti-archaeologist, what you've been doing in these 50 years?
Well, the fact of the matter is that Colombia's archaeological history is very different from many other countries around it. Colombia shut all the doors to outside students. Colombia shut the doors to people outside of the rosca. The rosca is the word we use in Colombia to mean the little circle of power. In Colombia, the little circle of power gets power and they keep the power. And so when places like Peru and Mexico and Guatemala were throwing open their doors to experts from all around the world to come and work there and study there, Colombia kept the doors carefully shut so that no one could ever study from outside, so that the people who wrote the books about this place, they would be their books, their only books. They would be the authorities, they would die, and their books would be the authoritative word.
That's a good thing. What do you say?
No, that's a bad thing. Because we need a diversity of views. And if you're paranoid, you don't allow a diversity of views. And if you're confident in what you think, then you don't have problem listening to other people's views too. But all of that I tell you just to say that when I got here, I wanted to understand this archaeology. I thought, I'll just buy all the materials. Well, the materials didn't exist. Colombia never did this.
The books or something.
For instance, where's the catalog? Where's the catalog of all the images? Where is it? In any other country, that catalog would have existed long ago. In Colombia, that's not the way it works.
It's still like that.
Basically, you'll see that in this place right here, there are no books whatsoever for sale. Now, it's normal to go to an archaeological site, especially a major archaeological site. Some people like books. Maybe you like books. I like books.
Yeah.
The only book for sale in this town is my book.
Your book?
Yes, the only book. Are you going to go through the park?
Yeah.
Well, when you're walking up to the Alto y Lavapatas, cuando están caminando subiendo Alto y Lavapatas, a mano derecha hay un restaurante. They sell my book there. You can look at it if you want.
Oh, I'm gonna buy it.
They sell my book in different places in town too. But you see, why would the Colombian archaeological establishment not want to have books much more authoritative than my books? Who am I? I'm nobody. They have people here who have studied archaeology for way too much time and spent way too much time sitting in classrooms. They could write books too.
So why do you think they don't?
Because Colombia has a different archaeological history than other places. This museum right here is called Louis Duque Gomez. Louis Duque Gomez died decades ago, but the Colombian archaeological establishment is still in thrall to Louis Duque Gomez. And Louis Duque Gomez's ideas are incredibly antiquated. So in reality, every generation should have its own new view. Your life is short. If you don't seize the moment to express your view while you're alive, your life's gonna go by really fast. This archaeological park, this was all created in the 1960s. That's more than 50 years ago. Where's the new vision? Where's the new vision that's not based on this old vision? Because you see, all of these things that you're about to see, they're all wrong. Everything here was under the ground. These people who made the pueblo escultores, I call them, they made these things to put them with intentionality, with spiritual purpose in the ground. And huaqueros, you know the term huaqueros? Huaqueros are tomb robbers, people who dig because they want to sell what they find. Huaqueros and archaeologists, they create the same situation. They dig the stuff up out of the ground and then they just leave it there, out of the ground. Now it's being ruined. Now time is ruining it because it's been several generations in the wind and the rain and the sun and the atmosphere. Unprotected. When these things come out of the ground after 2,000 years, after 1,500 years, all of us who live here know they're in perfect condition. The ancient people, they knew what they were doing. They were putting them in the place where, in fact, they will thrive. But our modern science tells us that something's wrong with being down under the earth because we can't see them. And so we put them all up above the ground, and then the archaeologist dies, and there's the statue up above the ground, and now it's going to start to be ruined. It's in the wrong place. Spiritually, it's not authentic. Archaeologically, it's not authentic. Why don't they change all that right now? They know this better than I do. The archaeological establishment understands this much better than I do. Why don't they change it?
They don't want to?
Because you just paid to get in here. That's why. Because they don't have any faith. They don't have faith that people want to see the real thing. People want to see the authentic situation.
But if it was buried, how could we see?
We're lucky here that we have in our same area of the country here the place called Tierra Dentro. Tierra Dentro is a place where there are statues that have all been taken up out of the ground and they're all exhibited in the wrong way, just like here, but they also have the underground tombs. They're called hipogeos, and they're tombs that were dug out of the rock, so they can't be moved because they were dug into the rock. They are what they are. So when you go to Tierra Dentro, you have to go down into the ground to see them. Okay. And I guarantee you, for every single person, going down into the hipogeos of Tierra Dentro is a much more powerful experience than seeing these statues that have been ripped out of the ground. Their original place has been destroyed. The archaeologists don't care about that. They've been placed up above the ground as if they were statues of Simón Bolívar and Santander and Nariño. That's what we do. That's our culture, what we do with statuing. So because these archaeologists pertain in their brains to our culture, rather than being somehow interested in the ancient culture, they treat these things here just like they treat the statues of Simón Bolívar, and they put them up above the ground. But this is not the way that they were put by the ancient people. The ancient people had reasons for doing what they were doing. And if we can't respect those reasons, then that means we're giving up any psychological and spiritual affinity with the things. Do we want to feel our connection with them? Well, then we have to respect the view of the people who made them, not the view of scientists who want to tell us dates and measurements and habitation patterns. All of that stuff's very interesting, but all of that stuff is off to the side. That should be subsidiary information. That shouldn't be the main information. Because the problem with the archaeological view is that there's no spiritual element. And the spiritual element for these people was primordial. You know, these people here lived for 2,000 years above the ground. And when they left, there's no traces of them. Because their houses were made out of sticks and mud. They didn't have wallets and keys and motorcycles and all. They didn't have anything. They lived a life that no doubt was very satisfactory without being, like we are today, avaricious. Because avarice is the ruling spirit of the modern world, wanting to have more and more and more. So the ancient people here lived above the ground, leaving no trace, because where their spiritual heart was centered was under the ground. And so if we really wanted people, we say this is patrimonio de la humanidad. If we really wanted the humanidad to feel this treasure we have here, like we would start right now today, putting them back down under the ground, but in places where we can go visit them, like the Hipogeos in Tierra Adentro. That's what we need to do. The fact that I will tell you that I am roundly laughed at for this idea. The fact that I am laughed at for that idea is the measure of the madness of what we've created here. That's why I'm an anti-archaeologist.
So you're the only one?
Excuse me?
You're the only one, you're a lonely voice. Or there's a movement that think like you, or something like that?
Within the institutionality, there's zero. This is just, it's like dropping a rock into a well. It's gone.
So what you're saying is that every statue is out of context, right?
All of the statues are out of context. 100% of them are out of context, unless you want to go to La Chaquira. La Chaquira is a site where you can see the rocks that are live rocks. They've never been moved. They're big boulders. They were carved. Obviously, they're in their correct place. But everything else, which is 100% of everything, was under the ground. And here's another problem, too. What happened in this part of the country where we live when the Europeans arrived here was total genocide. Everyone died in all this area of Colombia. There was no people left, virtually no people left. Over on the other side of the mountains in Cauca, when the Indian nations were defeated, they were mostly left alive. They're there today. The Nasa and the Guambianos are there today. But this whole area of the country was depopulated because the people here were not willing to be slaves, apparently. It wasn't the Pueblo Escultor, right? They were already gone 7 centuries earlier. But the people who lived here combated the invasion and died. A few people were left up here in this valley, because you see, what mattered to the Europeans was down below. Pitalito, Timana, Neiva, that was where all the riches were. So up here was a place they called El Rincón de Timana. In other words, it was the backwoods. This was nothing up here to the Spaniards. There wasn't any gold, there weren't any slaves to be made use of, etc. So because of that, this was left alone for 200 years after the conquest. The people who lived here were indigenous, but they weren't, they were the leftovers. They were the people who survived. They were the sons and daughters of the survivors who continued to live here for those 200 years, from like 1530 to 1750. During that time, there's no Huaqueo, because Indians, indigenous people, they respect this world. Even if it wasn't their world, it's their worldview. And they understand that those were put there with spiritual reasons, not just as a game, but for spiritual reasons by the people who made them. And so because of that, they would never dig stuff out of the ground. That's what white people do. And it was 200 years later that the white people, the European descended people, I'm European descended, people like me came, and that's when the Huaqueo starts. So
Huaqueros was Europeans, was white people.
It's not that it was white people, it's that the avarice that wants you to learn how to Huaquear was European. Of course, everywhere in the world, the European people, they learn how to use native people as their tools.
Yeah.
So the actual people who were digging might have been people from here, but the spirit of doing it came from the avaricious Europeans who suddenly started thinking, maybe there's something in those tombs up there. The statues were just extra. They didn't care about the statues.
Yeah, they're looking for gold.
They were looking for gold, exactly. And so because of that, the statues were all unearthed and left behind. They didn't have any value. There weren't any roads, there weren't any trucks, there was no black market, so they didn't have any meaning. So because of that, they were left behind. But what the Huaqueo that came was because of rich people. You know who the first Huaqueros were? I've done a historical study of this. The first Huaqueros were priests.
Priests?
Yes.
Looking for gold.
Exactly. Looking for gold. They were in Pitalito, or they were in Timana, or they were in Popoyan, and somebody told them about this stuff here. So they came here, got a bunch of indigenous people drunk, gave them some beads and some machetes, and taught them how to dig up the stuff underneath the ground. That's the history of the Wakeo. And after that, when archaeology comes, unfortunately, the type of archaeology that's practiced here in Colombia was not able to disassociate itself, spiritually speaking, from this earlier phase. And the archaeologists just started digging up everything because their gold is their publications. And so archaeology, just like Wakeo, continued on. It's treasure seeking. The treasure seeking for archaeologists is now these books and publications that they make. The treasure seeking for the Waqueros was gold and hopefully valuable items. But the idea is exactly the same. That's what hasn't changed. So what has to change is a reevaluation of what this means to us. That's what I was just saying a minute ago when I was talking with my friend Jairo, who works here, that my wife, who's a guide, who works as a guide here, she really objects to the word park, archaeological park, because the word park for Colombians holds associations of recreation and cooking a meal and running around by the river and fucking things up, etc. And so if you call this a park for Colombians, it's not like calling it a park for you and me. It holds other associations that maybe you and me at the start wouldn't feel because we're from a different upbringing. But the treatment of this, that speaks to the treatment of this place in the minds of the people who run it.
Like the objective. Right?
Yes, the objective for the
thing.
people who run it is to call it a park, because what they really care about is that place right out there where people pay money to get in here.
And is it good money? Or?
Boy, I guess it's good money.
Yeah.
How much did you pay?
How much did we pay?
Well, it's something.
¿Cuánto pagamos ayer por esto?
Ayer 65,000, eso fue.
Yeah.
75, 65, 65, 65,
And
65.
there are many
65,
people.
65. Sometimes there's tons of people here. It all depends on the season at the time of year. It's really great for you guys. There's no one here right now.
Yeah.
But if you take it all during the year, it's a lot of money. And this is especially grating here in this town, because you won't even believe this, but the word regalias, what's the word in English?
Gifts.
Let's say the town I'm from in Oregon has a national park next to it. And so the federal government runs the national park, and they make all the money from in there. But the law obliges them to use a share of that money in my town, because my town is having all these tourists come and they're using our water and they're using our streets and they're dirtying our stuff. And so we deserve part of the money that's raised by this park that's in our town to go to the good of our municipality. Here, the regalias are zero.
Zero.
Zero. There's never been once. These people, the Ican, they take all the money.
And they don't use it here.
Well, they pay their employees here. Mm-hmm. They work their plant here. But to me, that's fine. I don't care what they do with the money after they've taken the part from my town. That's the way it works in countries that have more democratic laws. The slice for the municipality comes first. After that, you fuck around with your park or whatever you want to do. But don't tell me you spend all the money, sorry, there's nothing left over for the town. That doesn't work in democratic countries. But that's how it works here. Zero regalias.
Would you say the town lives on the touristic, lives on the sites, the tourists that comes and spend in the town?
No place anywhere lives on tourist money, because tourist money is designed to go to a certain part of the society.
But the hotels, the restaurants, the structure that
compared to the number of people who live in this valley, the number of people who have hotels and restaurants is very small.
So doesn't work.
Well, it's not socialism.
No, for sure.
Like, here's a guy, my neighbor, he lives right next to the park. He doesn't make anything. He's just farming coffee. Should he not deserve a share as much as the director of this park? For all the people who come all around the world to his town?
Makes sense.
To me, it makes sense. I mean, it doesn't make sense to everybody, but at least it's a valid position to consider and take into account and think of it from that point of view. There should be regalias for the town, because when a town gains money from regalias, then it has a vested interest in caring about that plant that's making this money. If you go somewhere and just establish your plant and make money, you have to expect that all the people around who live around you, they don't give a shit about you, because you don't give a shit about them. We have a real problem here in this area, for instance. I happen to live very close to here. Garbage is not collected here. Garbage is collected in the town. We have really good systems of garbage collection in our town, fortunately, including they do the organic stuff apart from the inorganic stuff. It's got to be the only town in all of South Colombia that does that. But up here in the country, nobody collects the garbage. Well, here, they've got gigantic garbage collections, and they, of course, get all their garbage taken away. But if you as a neighbor come here and want to put your garbage in their bin, they won't let you do it. And so, you know what campesinos do when they don't get their garbage collected? They burn it. Exactly. So because of these people, the campesinos around here burn their garbage. Why do I say because of these people? Because in my opinion, these are the invaders. These are the people who have come from outside and built a plant here, and they should be looking for ways to make the people around them happy. And the easiest way would be to say, pick up the garbage, no problem. We got big garbage bins right here. Easy. It's the easiest thing in the world. That'll make the people happy. Fuck, what more could you want? But no, they don't do that because they have no commitment to the community. Econ has no commitment to the community. And that's in spite of the fact, Isidro, who's the director here, I've known him since he was a kid. The people who work here, they're people from here. They're my neighbors, etc. But they're employees of this consortium in Bogota who makes all the decisions of how things are run. So I'm not blaming the people who work in the park here. The people who work in the park here are doing their best. But the bureaucratic decisions that are made in Bogota are anti-human.
You must have few enemies up there, no?
I really have enemies because of the thing in Berlin.
In Berlin, because
of being part of the movement to bring the statues back from Berlin to here, where they were stolen by a German guy who did all kinds of horrible things that we have all the information about. His own documents, he left us his own documents about all his illicit and illegal doings. And the people in the econ, the people who run archaeology here, they know that better than I do.
They support you on that?
What's that?
They support you on that?
No, not at all. Because you see, the problem is that the elites who run something are more interested in their relation with those German elites who are their buddies than they do some poor ragged coffee growers in the district around here. When our elites get over there to Germany to talk about this situation, they're hypnotized by the fact that Germans are Europeans with blue eyes and nice suits on and more money than they have, and they can help you out with college degrees, they've got university, they've got things that they can do for you. There's benefits for our elites that they see in their friendship and connection with Germans elites. So once you send them over there, they're fatally hooked into this inferiority complex that Latin Americans have about Europe. And to expect them to care more about us than they do about these well-heeled Germans is hopeless.
So tell me a little bit about your book and how people can buy it.
Here's the thing. I have a library. I have quite a great library in my house. I've worked hard for many years to collect the whole bibliography of the Pueblo Escultor. I call this Pueblo Escultor. San Agustín is not a legitimate name for an ancient culture. It was a Catholic saint. The Catholics are the people who came here and destroyed the cultures in America. It's highly ironic to call an ancient culture by the name of a Catholic saint. So we say Pueblo Escultor. The library, the bibliography of the Pueblo Escultor, is almost all discourses among experts. None of it is written for you and me. None of it is written for the populace. They don't do that. They write more and more and more scientific books about their habitation patterns and how many meters deep it was and how thick it is and what kind of a rock it is and what this burial is consisted of, and good maps and charts, things that no one will read, right? So it occurred to me after I'd done all my work of making this entire catalog, not just of San Agustín, but of the entire Macizo Colombiano. My catalog is an amazing catalog. It occurred to me that the thing I need to do is to write in a way that I'm communicating with every man, not with the archaeologist. I don't care about communicating with the archaeologist.
Less technical.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the technical information, I care about it. It's really interesting. It's interesting stuff, but it's not the main axis. And so it occurred to me that books can be written speaking as human beings like to communicate among themselves without being PhDs and master's degrees. The fact of the matter is that I don't know that much. It's not like I'm Mr. Expert. It's just that your life is short and you have a brief moment on earth to speak your piece. Why would you not speak your piece? You do your best. You don't claim that you know all the answers. You claim that you maybe have a new idea for how to communicate these things. So I wanted to write a book that anyone could read. And so my book is in English and Spanish, by the way, because my native language is in English. So the same text is in English and Spanish. And in the middle of the book, there's 100 illustrations. I have like 500 illustrations of different statues, but I took 100 of them and I put them in the book so that people can read the text referring to all these images, because this is graphic imagery. If you just write a book with words, you'll never hook the interest of most people in this stuff here, because it's purely visual, it's purely sensorial. So because of that, I put all these pictures together that I spent decades of my useless life drawing, and then I have my explanations in English and Spanish of some things about where those images come from. What's the history of those images? That's what I tried to do with my book.
And it's available on the internet, how people can buy it?
You have to come to San Agustín and look for it. Or you could buy it in Bogota in a bookstore. But it's in a number of artesanias shops here in San Agustín, and it's in this place in the archaeological park, like I say.
What's the name?
The name of the book?
Yeah.
The name of the book is Las Estatuas del Pueblo Escultor, The Statues of the Pueblo Escultor, because it's in English and Spanish.
I bought it yesterday.
All right.
Yeah.
Then you already know.
I wish I have it here so you can autograph.
It's nice of you not to say, I didn't think much of your book, man.
No, I thought it was amazing. I couldn't read it yet, but it was amazing. Very nice. Well, I really appreciate you spending your time with us, with my public.
So now I get to ask a couple questions.
Sure.
Where are you guys from, and why are you here, and what's your project?
We are from Brazil. We are doing this expedition of 32,000 kilometers through 7 countries, searching, documenting, and posting more than 60 archaeological sites. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to understand and study the formation of civilization in our continent.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really great.
It's a research I've been doing since 2020. It's my 6th expedition.
All right.
This is the biggest one, and for the first time I'm posting. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Before that I was just studying, collecting, and getting deeper in the research. So that's amazing to meet you, and really amazing. For me, it's a great opportunity to talk to people who knows better than me, right? Yeah.
Some things, we all know some things.
Yeah, but here, you're the specialist, in my opinion, right? And it was amazing, and I want to thank you very much.
I want to toss in one more thing that's important. The images here, of which there are many hundreds, everyone is different.
Yeah.
You've been to a lot of archaeological sites. You know that's not normal. If you go to the Temple of Quetzalcoatl in Mexico, you'll see that there's 100 different Quetzalcoatls. They're all exactly alike. They're fantastic pieces of art. They're all the same. Every statue that's found here is different because every statue is a different text. And so I call this place the greatest lithic library in America. There's nothing that even remotely compares to the panorama of different images that you can see if you take them all, like in my book, and look at all of these different images. There's no place in America that's like it. So this place should be valued as the most important lithic library that exists in America. Even though there were other cultures who were vastly more powerful and vastly more materially powerful, there was no one who left behind for posterity this vast series of different images that if we think of them as each one having a narrative, then it's a library that the world little appreciates. And one other thing that's really important to understand about this place here, you see that these people who made the greatest lithic library ever in America, they were little groups who lived in malocas and lived in aldeas in little groups, and they were led not by politicians, they were led by their shamans. They were groups of interlaced families. So they were what anthropologists would consider a lower level before cacicazgos, before states, before empires. If you look at the history of lithic production in America, you'll see that it's all made by empires or by states, or at least by cacicazgos. There's nothing anywhere that was made by people who were living in little mud and stick houses, and they were living a very simple life. They didn't have territory, because territory comes with a different conception of politics. These people were living an earlier phase of life, but not at the same. 1,000 years before the people here had been the great empire of Chavin de Huántar. 1,000 years before these people had been the Olmec states in Mexico. So it's not like they didn't know that there were other more developed ways of living. It's not like they were primitive people in the Amazon who hadn't ever understood any of these stuff. These were people who chose to live like this rather than to live in a great political combine of some sort. And great political combines are what naturally have created the great art. But not here. This was the greatest art of all, somehow mysteriously created by people who lived a completely different life. And there's no defensive edifications at all. There's no walls, there's no weapons, there's everything to make you understand that these people lived in peace. So why
there's no buildings,
What's
no
that?
buildings,
There's
no
no
buildings
buildings.
left. Only for the dead, right?
Because the stone is something very special. The stone is not for making buildings, or making causeways, or making canals, or making stairways, or making walls, or making houses. That's not what stone's for these people. Stone is for communicating with the Madre. Because this is a confusing concept, but in American thought, the past is in front of us. The future is behind us. Because you see, the past is what we can see. We know the past, it's our model. We have it in front of us. We can study the past and understand where we are. But the future is something that we can't see.
That's amazing.
It's behind us, it's coming up toward us, but you can't see it. You can feel it getting closer, but you can't take any messages from the future because you can't see it. Whereas the past you can see. So you see what's underneath the ground, the idea that the antepasados are put in the ground, we take that in our European sense. They're just dead people. We just buried them. No, the antepasados are alive. You know, the Incas brought their mummies out and had celebrations and gave them chicha. The antepasados in American thought are alive. And so the underground space with the antepasados in them, to the European thinking, that's a cemetery, it's dead, that's not alive. To the American thinking, quite the opposite. That's the most alive place. It's where our model is. It's where my mother and my father and my grandparents are, and they're all still alive because we communicate with them.
It's like you're moving to the future backwards.
Absolutely.
Amazing thought.
Absolutely.
That's
And
amazing.
that's true American thought. And I say that with humility because I'm not an indigenous person and I'm not an ancient American. I've just tried my best to wrap my head around this idea, and I can see that this entire place and all of the places you're going and seeing are run by people who don't understand or don't appreciate American thought. Because if we were to be establishing this place based on this kind of American thought, everything would be different. And personally, I think it would be much better because I have faith in most people. I think most people really want to know the truth. They don't want to see Disneyland. This is Disneyland. Walt Disney would have been really happy with this place. I don't know if you know that Louis Duque Gomez, when he made this place, there's these statues where there's 3 statues in a row, one big one and two on the side that you'll see up there looking forward. They weren't looking forward. They were looking to the side. But Louis Duque Gomez put them like this. Why? Because of the camera.
Wow.
That's where we are. You see, these things are all set up for the camera. That's pathetic. That's a really pathetic that in 2025 we have these things set up for the camera when personally I think most people are intelligent. I think most people are interested and intelligent and care about what they're seeing, and they would, if they were given the choice, they would want to see the truth, not Walt Disney. You can go to Disneyland in California if you want to. It's completely phony.
I agree with you.
Yeah. So
That's
we don't
amazing.
need Disneyland here, and someday all I can do in my position is to plant seeds. I'd like to point out that these statues are like seeds. They were all put underneath the ground because they had a future to grow the sense, right? So they were, the ancient people really conceived of what they were doing as planting seeds, not as burying dead people.
Oh, you just planted one here.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Decifrando Fawcett.